In an ever-changing world, old customs and beliefs are naturally replaced by new ideologies. However, in some historical periods, the changes were violent and intolerant. For example, the unfortunate witch hunt period, mainly in Europe and North America. The witch hunt occurred predominantly during the modern age, from the 15th century to the end of the 18th century. It was an era shaped by huge political, economic, and social transformations, such as the Renaissance, the Protestant Reformation, maritime expansion, and the consolidation of monarchical absolutism. During the Renaissance period, classical thought was rediscovered and there was a huge advance in art, science, and literature. Religious tensions in Europe intensified with the Protestant Reformation, which divided Western Christendom between Catholics and Protestants. The Catholic Church played an important role in promoting the witch hunt, as it considered witchcraft a form of heresy and a threat to authority. Religious leaders preached that witches worshiped the devil, performing pagan rituals and resorting to supernatural powers to harm people. Often, accusations of witchcraft were used to justify the persecution and murder of people seen as different or threatening to society. For example, women who lived alone or who had knowledge of medicinal herbs were often accused of witchcraft. Many people believed that the devil was a real entity in our world, with human followers known as witches and wizards. Another popular belief claimed that witches made a pact with the devil in exchange for supernatural powers. According to this belief, witches worshipped the devil and carried out his wishes in exchange for their powers. The trial procedures during the witch hunt were exceedingly cruel and unfair. The accused were often subjected to physical and psychological torture to force them to confess to crimes they had not committed. Mostly, the condemned were burned alive and some were beheaded. The victims were tied to a ladder, which was then pushed onto a burning pyre. As a final mercy, the authorities tied gunpowder bags around the witches' necks to hasten their deaths in the flames. Also, the trials were utterly biased. The judges, often members of the local church or nobility, had already decided on the sentence before the trial started. Prosecutions were based on the rumor and gossip. Witnesses often lied or were coerced into testifying against the accused. Many secular leaders believed that witch persecution was needed to maintain social order and protect the state. During the witch hunt period, people had scant scientific knowledge about the world. This fear of the unknown made them look for culprits for natural events, such as epidemics or destroyed crops. Witches were often seen as the cause of these problems. Many people of this time had financial and psychological hardships. Persecuting witches was a way to escape from their reality, creating a sense of religious duty in their lives. Inquisitors and witch hunters played a key role in spreading the collective hysteria that led to the persecution and execution of thousands of people during the witch hunt. Inquisitors were agents of the Catholic Church, charged with investigating and prosecuting crimes against the faith. They had extraordinary authority to interrogate and try suspects of heresy and witchcraft, including the use of torture to obtain confessions. Witch hunters identified and persecuted alleged witches. They were usually people with no legal or theological training, but who took advantage of the financial reward offered by the courts that convicted witches. Inquisitors and witch hunters instilled a sense of fear and suspicion in towns and villages, encouraging the population to report neighbors and relatives suspected of witchcraft. In 1428, the first systematic European witch hunt began in Valais, Switzerland. It lasted 8 years and killed 367 people. To be convicted, a person had to have at least 3 neighbors publicly declare that they were a witch. Most of the accused in the Valais witch trials were peasant men. These individuals were subjected to torture, where confessions about encounters with the devil were extracted. Others confessed to having the power to kill neighbors with magic or to transform into werewolves. In some parts of Europe, such as Germany, most of the accused were women. In Iceland, many accused of witchcraft were men. A papal bull published in 1484 by Pope Innocent VIII, where the pontiff denounced witches, was seized upon by the German inquisitor Heinrich Kramer, who wrote a manual on identifying and treating witches in 1486. One of the most famous literary works about the witch hunt was the book The Hammer of Witches, written by Heinrich Kramer and Jacob Sprenger in 1486. It was a manual on how to identify and punish witches, widely used by inquisitors during the witch hunt. The most famous victim to be burned at the stake for witchcraft and heresy was Joan of Arc, but Joan was not murdered during the witch hunt period. She was more of a victim of politics than of religion. Witchcraft was simply a convenient way that the French nobles used to get rid of Joan. She was considered a blasphemer against God and was burned at the stake in 1431 in Rhône, France. It is said that she died from smoke inhalation before the flames devoured her. The most well-known and widespread case today was the trial of the Salem witches, a group of women accused of witchcraft in the late 17th century in the coastal town of Salem, Massachusetts, United States. The Salem witch trials and executions took place in 1692, considered one of the darkest episodes in American history. The Salem events began when two young girls, Betty Paris and Abigail Williams, displayed bizarre behavior and unexplained convulsions. The two girls were examined by doctors, who identified no medical cause for the symptoms. Other young girls experienced similar behaviors, and Salem residents began to suspect witchcraft. The Salem witch trials took place under collective hysteria and paranoia. The accused were subjected to unfair trials, and confessions were wrung out under torture. 19 women and men were convicted and hanged for witchcraft. Others died in prison or were forced to flee. The Salem witches is a powerful example of how fear and superstition can lead to extreme wrongdoing. Over time, witch persecution became a lucrative industry. Courts and witch hunters sought out more and more accused to try and punish, but they lost steam as society became more secular and people more critical of superstitions and supernatural beliefs. But the witch hunt is still considered one of the darkest episodes in human history. It serves to remind us how paranoia and intolerance can fuel widespread injustice and the violation of human rights.